So, I like Dead by Daylight. A lot. It's not a cornerstone of my soul like Team Fortress 2, Disco Elysium, or Battle for Bikini Bottom. But that said, I gotta admit that I love this game as just kind of a comforting junk food. Out of all the asymmetrical stuff out there, this is probably my favorite. There's something so satisfying about being sneaky and slippery as a survivor, or being brutal and tactical as a killer. But what kind of puts the cherry on top for me is the people watching aspect. I do this in a lot of games, just kind of watching people do some odd bullshit that makes me laugh. It just helps me not get tilted. It just makes the game feel so much more human. I mean, I might still go, "Aw, you dick," if you do something intentionally mean to me, but come on. What game are we playing here? Gotta be a little mean, even if you aren't trying to. I think something I lament, though, is that I can't really think of much content surrounding this game I would want to watch. It's a lot of competitive tier lists, specific character smearing videos, and trolling comps. It's just not what I like watching. If you like that sort of stuff, more power to you. I just want to make what I want to see. I don't treat it like Evo. It's like 2 steps away from a role-playing game for me, so damn dude, I'm not gonna be ultra competitive, you know? Honestly, I kinda just want to talk about killers and perks and stuff. I like Survivor gameplay, but if there's one big complaint I level towards this game, it's that they kinda screwed survivors on content. That's for another day. This is all to say that I am a huge killer enjoyer, but I would not call myself a tryhard, despite accusations. So what I want to do is an overview on killers and a jump into their perks and add-ons and such. A lot of people do things like, who should I play and what's good right now, and to be honest, my answers to both of those are play what you want, and it's an asymmetric game that's intentionally unbalanced, so everything works out if you're willing to put the time into it. Also, many people make judgment calls on every action in this game, and I'm not interested in what is toxic and what is normal. Like, there are people who consider looping rude, and people who say not letting the last person just leave is toxic. I don't want to interact with that here. I just want to have a good time and maybe give some pointers. Fuck if I know if it'll piss someone off, and hell if I know if someone is trying to piss me off on purpose. So let's just talk about some killers. Here's one. Trapper is simple, and therefore simple to deal with, is what survivors want to believe. Trapper has an ability that just gets more fun to me the more I use it, and the more I realize how hard it hits when it works. The bear trap is a trap you pick up and put down. Other traps have more ease of use, but this one makes up for its cumbersome nature with probably being the most devastating thing you can touch with your feet in this game. It's a trap that, vanilla, no add-ons, instantly removes a healthy state from a survivor, makes them scream, sets off a loud noise, keeps them there, takes an indeterminate chunk of time to get out of without a friend, and can't be entirely deleted by survivors, only set off.
Oh, my leg!
To set these, you gotta go through a whole checklist of running over to a trap, making a ton of noise to set it, and not stepping in it after the fact. But to me, that's a small price to pay for an effectively set and forget ability that can take off health states by default. Oh right, if you find someone who is trapped, you can also just pick them up or down them on the spot. Jesus. You can do a lot of fun stuff with these traps. Put them in a choke point where players are trying to lose you. Put them in looping spots to make them all the more dangerous. Put them under high brush to make survivors paranoid of any obstructed ground. Put them in your cereal for a nice crunchy surprise. Put them in your will so your children can have them. There are so many possibilities. And while some of these things can technically be done with other traps, these ones are the most commitment heavy out of all of them due to the things you have to go through to put them anywhere. So location really counts. I think what I love about the Trapper is just the bar that he set among the other starter killers. Something can have a simple idea, but have so many wrinkles to it. And among most of the cast, you feel this. Sure, there are more complex killers, but they can be boiled down to basic ideas at the end of the day. Trapper is simple on the face of it, but lets you be a devious little bastard. Now let's talk about Trapper perks, the first of which being Unnerving Presence.
Oh my god!
To a new player, this might seem a bit useless. In my terror radius? But when I play Survivor, I just leave and go to a locker whenever I hear a heartbeat. Who would ever try to do skill checks when the killer is nearby? Everybody does this. Everybody wants to be that risk taker who decides that now is the time to complete an entire gen by themselves even during heartbeat.wav. So this perk is wonderful for being a way to pick up on deceptively nearby survivors trying to do something important. Also, it works on heal skill checks. That's especially brutal. Next up is Brutal Strength. The perk you take when you like to do this and not lose your prey instantly. I have a bad habit of bonking gens way before I bonk other players. It's just an impulse. Like, of course I want this gen to start declining right now. Fuck who's watching. The issue is, whoever is watching is usually right there to start the gen again when I look for the person I just lost track of by hitting the gen. This perk lets you spend way less time doing generator stuff and way more time chasing. It has a lot of synergy with the usual sometimes sluggish generator kicking perks, like almost all of them. It also makes pallet loops way more fun to fuck around with. And you can turn walls into jump scare machines if you're in any way undetectable. It's really nice to be fast in this game, so doing your foot-based chores faster is always nice.
Oh shit.
Agitation is another funny go fast perk, but it's a lot more straightforward. You are basically a speedy boy whenever you are carrying a survivor. Obviously this helps with getting a survivor to a hook in record time, but it also makes dealing with aggressive hook haters way easier. Why deal with someone running to body block when you can just run faster than them? Your effective hooking range becomes easier, and so does life, what can I say? Well, what I can say is, does anyone else really think consciously about the terror radius increase this gives you when you're picking someone up? I genuinely forgot it was there until I started making this script. It's really great for freaking people out, I guess? Having a total terror radius build, that's always fun. Honestly, I would just pick this if you're running Scourge hooks or you're done with people's bullshit. Now for my second favorite thing, add-ons. I love how this can just totally transform your killer gameplay, in ways that are subtle enough for the survivor at times, yet super apparent for the killer. Not to say that I dislike the louder add-ons in the game, but gosh, I love mechanics, man, you gotta help me.
Might be a trap. It's probably a trap.
Trapper's gloves and fastening tools makes way for speedy trap setting, with the latter making said traps harder to get out of by either method one would use to do so. Stacking these two is hilarious, because you can just kinda plunk a trap down pretty much instantly. You can have traps back up almost as fast as they go down. That said, these are also amazing garnish on other builds. In fact, Tool is probably my most used, fuck it, give me something good add-on. It's just fun to be fast, what can I say?
That didn't hurt!
Padded Jaws falls into a camp I like to call hard mode add-ons. Everyone tends to have at least one thing they can put on their special move to make it patently harder to succeed with, but gives you a lot of blood points in return. These things, for instance, make your death-dealing bear traps bite more like a friendly dog. No damage from bear traps at all is kind of awful. Sure, they still make noise and they keep them where you want them, but man, passively doing damage is the best doing damage. If you already go right to your prey when they get caught, you can still lift them out, that's still allowed. So if you are aggressive and want to kneecap yourself for money, here you go.
Oh, I'm hit!
Makeshift Wrap is an add-on that kinda depreciates the more you know how to play Trapper and then appreciates again. Being able to just kinda not worry about snapping your own trap on your leg is nice, but look, it's still set off. This keeps you moving, but being caught in a bear trap means that once you go through the silly animation, it's back up again. So I guess this depends on what you find more important, keeping it up or not having that funny animation in the first place. That said, there are mind games with this thing. Sometimes the survivor just assumes you can't do shit if a trap sits between you and them. So this is a funny way to be nice and unpredictable. If you don't want to be silly and would rather use this in general ways, I would just learn to be careful. But I'm not your mom. Even if you would probably like that, you sicko. Bear oil? Like oil made from bears? Jesus. Silent bear traps is an interesting upside to have. It sounds really powerful for a common add-on, and in reality it isn't crazy, but as an aside, that's sort of why I like add-on colors. They tend to be more about the complexity of a modifier rather than the outright quality, for the most part, on a good day. And the ones that do duplicate things but better tend to be like that because you're meant to stack them, if you please. Just 2 maximum though, please. Why do killers have a third worse add-on in some of these cases? You can't use 3. You can't use like 5. What is this? Stop it. But yeah, bear oil. If you like setting traps in the middle of chases, this is very much for you. People won't know you are doing something unless they check, which means they tend to stick around, or even give you line of sight on them. Plus, I mean, less noise is great if you're playing an otherwise sneaky build. Just a warning that smart survivors know the amount of time you're gonna be using a trap for, so be careful being too reliant. Wax brick is as simple as it sounds. Like the setting tool from earlier, it just makes escaping way harder, and let's face it, if you hear someone get got from across the map, you want as much time as possible to head over there. Can't really expand on it, it's just generally a good thing to have if you like checking up on your trapped lads. Also, I had no clue industrial wax bricks were a thing. They kinda make me want one. They also make me slightly hungry. I, as a general rule, love the status effect giving add-ons in this game. People will say their part about how they aren't super necessary or powerful, but I just love them. Hemorrhage is deceptively good, at least in regards to how I play. Draining people of their health progress is mean. Not super important, but quite mean. I love using Hemorrhage mostly because of how easy it is to track someone when they have it. Even long after the scratch marks have faded, I still see their Smucker's jam. On Trapper, this lets you have a way easier time knowing where people are when they've escaped, which is highly underrated, in my humble opinion. Now, I'm gonna be real with you. I don't think Deep Wound is all that useful of an effect to inflict on people. Like, sure, unchecked, it can cause some issues and the visual effects are distracting, but in my experience, people tend to deal with their wounds as soon as they lose you, which the only time said wounds become dangerous is when they lose you. Really, this is just telling a survivor that they gotta, at some point, get 12 seconds of downtime, which is pretty easy to have in this game. It's time they aren't doing other things, which can definitely add up and put a wrench in plans. But like, come on, this is an effect survivors inflict on themselves on the regular. They know how to deal with it. If someone does get downed by this, it's hilarious though. And its effect is way better for Trapper than most, since you're not usually chasing them first thing. That timer goes down right away, which is bound to make them stop right then and there to mend, giving you time to catch up with them even if they escape. Plus, with an add-on that we'll go over later, it leads to shenanigans.
Hey, does anybody want coffee? Who wants coffee? I just made a fresh pot of coffee. Does anybody want coffee?
The coffee is an aggressive Trapper perk, basically letting you add traps to the field and catch up with survivors really quick as if you hadn't spent the time doing so, or just generally to cover ground easier than if you didn't have it. 5% haste sounds tiny, but I assure you it's okay. You notice 5% killer haste way more when you're the survivor running. By the way, this is your PSA, Killer Mains. Play some Survivor and learn what tactics feel like from the other end. It turns confusing plays you have seen survivors take into totally understandable courses of action. Knowledge is power. Let me get this clear, because I was confused for the longest time and maybe someone else out there is too. This thing does not make escaping harder. They make disarming harder. I don't know why I thought they make escaping harder, but I did. Survivors love to make sure dangerous things aren't even 2 feet from them, so making them work harder to pacify a trap is a plus, I would say. It isn't a the pig level of busy work you give survivors, but it's a good bit of slightly petty counterplay to smart people. If you're far away, they're still gonna get your traps, but at least they'll be wasting time.
Somebody can get to the bag. Damn. Sad.
Trapper's bag is just nice. In my experience, I don't tend to need more than 2 traps on my person at a time, but the control this gives you in early game can be very nice. It lets you be a lot more deliberate with at least your first few traps. Sort of like another add-on I will talk about later, but with less commitment needed. Tar Bottle is a coin toss. Some maps flat out make traps easier to see. That kind of is just how it is. A lot of killers get better or worse based on the map, but half the fun is finding out how to succeed in these environments. Tar Bottle is weird because it tends to make traps better on maps they were already sort of hidden on, and way easier to spot on maps that were already hard to deal with as Trapper. I would say use this with caution, but sometimes it's fun to take the ticket and ride the ride, you know? You should use a map offering too if you want. I just kind of forget they exist.
I told you don't touch that darn thing.
Mingled is one of the more obviously helpful status effects in the game. I still think Undetectable and Oblivious are my favorites, but making someone have a hard time healing is always nice for slowdown. Mangled also doesn't just go away on its own either, so I like that. Healing is more available than ever these days, so making it harder is good, I think. Trapper's Sack is probably my favorite add-on for Trapper. Being able to just have all your traps at the start is fantastic. And while you have to be a lot more deliberate in your placement now, I find that really fun. I overthink my trap spots anyway, so an add-on that doesn't let you pick them back up doesn't really affect me that much. I just like not having to go to the other side of the map in early game to pick up a trap in Cincinnati.
Ah! Bloody wars, this is lethal!
Tension Spring seems broken, but really it's just nice to have if you don't want to think too hard. A 2-second turnaround. That is something. I swear I've seen someone heal over a trap they just got hit by, and it opened under them. I have no clue if I just imagined it happening, but I heard the pings at one point in my life. This thing is sadly not so great for if you're there to hit a survivor when they get trapped, or if you're up against really sabotage-happy survivors, but those moments where it works are very funny. Also, this is the thing that Deep Wound is really funny with. You can make totems really hard to deal with. Oily Coil is probably my second favorite Trapper add-on. Turning your traps into little survey beacons for sabotaging survivors is really helpful. Just reset a trap that was sabotaged and boom, there they are, get to it. This is mostly good for teams that are smart because smart teams tend to know when to deactivate traps, and this makes all times to deactivate a trap a bad time.
I'm dead.
Honing Stone is a rude lad. Most status effect dealing items beat around the bush, but not this one. This one straight up just kills you if you escape a trap by yourself. Okay, not kills, but you know what I mean. If someone else is nearby the trapped survivor, it can make this a little less useful, but Jesus, taking a full health survivor down to dying with just one chomp, that's brutal. Definitely hone your ears if you use this though, because someone could definitely crawl to an inconvenient place when you come back to the trap.
Open sesame. Well, I've done all I can do.
Oh boy. Okay, so I don't need to say why this is good, right? The ability to have all your traps eventually open with enough time is crazy. You can have traps go off that you don't even know are active. Plus, when you have all your traps up, this acts as a slower but more universal tension spring, making traps open up even if someone sabotages them as opposed to only when they get caught. Out of the 2 iridescent add-ons, this is probably my favorite, but I like the other one too.
Ow, my finger!
Bloody Coil is probably my pick for the most actively gimmicky of all of the Trapper add-ons, but I love it all the same. If a healthy survivor sabotages a trap, they aren't healthy anymore. Simple as that. A good team will usually only get fooled by this once or twice, but think about it. After that, you've basically scared every healthy survivor into not getting rid of traps when they really should. You're going to be playing long-range Legion with them a little bit with how often they're going to be on low health. I would watch out for no Mither users, but I say watch out for them in general. Someone who is that okay with never healing up to full the whole game truly frightens me. So yeah, simple start to a series I want to make, but I hope listening to me ramble about a game I like has been fun. Much love, treat yourself well, leave a funny like